everybody. Thank you for joining us for our webinar on creating a change request in PeopleSoft. So this is our final webinar for this fiscal year, so you are the kudos crowd. Thanks for hanging in there with us with all the changes that we've had going on in PeopleSoft. We do want to implement this effective tomorrow, so thank you for being a part, and that way you guys know what's going on. So we are wanting to make sure that you understand we've gone through the process of fine-tuning the functionality of the change request to make sure that it would be working when it came live to you, and it does, and this should simplify the process of the change orders. We're very excited that this last piece is being implemented. It will link all the requisitions and purchase orders together and provide the departments with data from requisition to purchase order. There are several people in our room here today with me. I have Venus Manico, our Director of Purchasing, as well as Max Stiles, who assist in our webinar trainings and live trainings as well. And then I have Mike Staten and then Joanne Callahan helping out with the trainings, seminars, and webinars that we do. So today we're going to cover before a purchase order is created, after a purchase order is created, and after a purchase order is dispatched, how the change request applies to those three areas. So first of all, we want you to know that making these edits to a requisition, that's the first step. So we are in the process of saying, I am not satisfied with my requisition exactly the way it is. So I do need to make some changes. So right now, the purchase order is updated manually by the buyer when they receive an email requesting a change, which slows down the process of actually putting a change order into your purchase order. Making the request in PeopleSoft can be completed very quickly from the Manage Requisition page, so most of you should be familiar with that page by now, and both the requisition and the purchase order, and it just keeps everything in sync. The edits will require the transaction to go back through the same approval workflow as the original requisition, so be cognizant of that as you make those changes on a change request. There are definitely want to make sure when you originally do a requisition, if it hasn't become a purchase order, it hasn't been dispatched, then it won't have to go through the workflow necessarily if you haven't submitted it yet to your approvers. That's the only time that it wouldn't go through that workflow. I think you're going to really like going to this next benefit, though. When you edit a requisition in PeopleSoft, the change request icon in the requisition lifespan on that Manage Rec page becomes active, or in other words, it just gains color, just like all the other ones that you've been seeing during the past year. Well, the change request does the same thing. When you click the change request icon, you can view the status and the information. That will give you the opportunity to track the transaction after making the edits, and we'll look at that in more detail on a later slide. After you submit a requisition, circumstances change, as we all know. The original requisition may need to be changed, such as changing the quantity ordered, the price, or the ship to location. So in order to change a requisition, you'll use the Edit Requisition component on the Manage Rec page. So if you remember, we're here at the main menu and the e-procurement and Manage Rec. Hopefully by now you've saved that as a favorite, because this should be a page that you go to often. So you'll click down that drop down button and you'll click on Edit. On that page, then after you've done that, it takes you to the Review and Submit page under Edit Requisition. So at that point you're on the requisition. So as you know, we are have three areas that we can cover, so that just so you know, edits can be made to a requisition at different stages of the lifespan. So let's talk about the first one. A requisition can be edited before a purchase order is created, and then any change made to the requisition is used to update the requisition. The change does not create a change request. So it's kind of like what I said before. At this point, if you notice, only two icons are highlighted, the requisition and then the approvals. So in these highlights, those are the only two things that are being affected. Once you're on this page, look for the line or lines that you want to edit. So in this example, you have 3 lines, and we're going to edit the first one. This will take you, when you clicked on that description link, it'll take you to the special request. So we've given you the sample down at the bottom of the page. And here we boxed in some examples of what you might want to edit: the price or quantity category. Those are things that can be edited. Again, this is prior to it being dispatched to a purchase order to the buyers. The supplier also can be changed on a requisition line, but only before the purchase order ID has been generated. After that, then the buyer has to make that change on a supplier if there's a need for that change. When all of the necessary edits have been made, you'll click the Apply button that's at the bottom of your special request page. Make sure you click that on, and so that way all that information that's been edited will be applied to the requisition and be able to notify you and your approvers of what your changes are. Okay, and then once you do that, you'll go back into the Review and Submit page, and there you can see the example that is edited, so you can see that with the arrows. When you're on this page, you can add additional comments or attachments as well if you feel that it's helpful for those viewing the transaction. For example, you may have comments for the approvers, or you may have some for the buyer to notify them. We do see those quite often now, so it is very helpful for the buyer to know if you have freight that needs to be added to a purchase order, or if you have a deadline that you're trying to meet, and so that we can help you meet those deadlines. When you're finished here, be sure to check the budget and then save and submit. If the requisition had started or completed the approval workflow process, then the system may require the approved workflow to be restarted. And you'll see that especially if you're doing price or quantity. Any changes there, it would go back through the approval workflow. Okay, so now when you go back to the Manage Requisition page, the changes made to the requisition line can be seen. We've got an example here for you, so you can see where they've been highlighted. The status is now pending, and the pre-encumbrance and the quantity is showing the change. We've got those highlighted as well. All other changes can be seen by clicking the requisition icon. So here we are going to have that in a moment, and so you'll be able to review those changes there. And we have it highlighted in this next example. You'll see the change request, or the purchase order, sorry, the purchase order is highlighted. So, okay, and after the purchase order will be the next one, and we'll talk about that, okay, and how that's highlighted. Sorry about that, I jumped ahead. Okay, so requisition can also be edited after a purchase order is created, and then any change made to the requisition is used to update the purchase order. Very, very important to note, the requisition approval and purchase order icons should only be the only ones that have color at this point. As stated on previous slides on the Manage Requisition page, search for the requisition you'd like to edit. So make sure you do that, and then once you've selected that, you'll select the Action drop-down box, go to the drop-down box, and then click the Go button once you click the Edit. That takes you into Edit Requisitions like it did earlier, what we talked about earlier. Once you're on that page, look for the line or lines that you want to edit, and click the line descriptions link. So you're going through that same process of what you did earlier. This will take you to the special request page for the line description, price, quantity, category, any of those that need a change, or if it's just one thing, make that change. Even if it's the due date, maybe you let it default to the date of the requisition, and you realize you're not expecting the goods to be delivered till September 30th. So you might want to make sure that you've covered that as well. So be sure to go back to the Manage Requisition page just to keep track of your edited transaction. Okay, so the third thing, after a purchase requisition has been dispatched, or purchase order has been dispatched, you still can edit your requisition. And oftentimes this is really the point where we call a change request a change order. So you are still making, in PeopleSoft though, we call it change request. All three of those things that we're talking about, the other two as well as this one, are change request. So after the purchase order is dispatched, and any change that you want to make to the requisition is used by updating the requisition. So you will create a requisition, a change request to the update, to update the purchase order. So when your purchase order has been dispatched, do the change request and then you do that by editing the rec. So all three of these processes that we're pointing out all start with the requisition, every one. So you will click on the requisition, and then you'll edit that. So it's important just to note that the approval and purchase order icons here are highlighted. Once you've processed a change request, we'll show that in a moment. Okay, so once again, you're on that Manage Rec page. So I'm going to say it for a third time. You're going to hear me again. So when you're here, search for the requisition that you would like to edit. Select the Edit from the Select Action drop-down box, and then click the Go button. This will take you to the Edit Requisitions, Review, and Submit page, just like it did earlier. And then once you're on that page, look for the line or lines you want to edit and click the line description link. This will take you to the special request page where the line description, price, quantity, category, due date, any of those things can be changed. And don't forget that page that we love, Manage Requisitions. Make sure that you can keep track there. And I do want to make a special note that if you have a purchase order that's not closed, it still can be increased or changed. But once the purchase order is closed, no changes can be made. Okay, so saving the changes will update the requisition. To keep track of the transaction after the edits have been made, use the Review Change Request page to monitor change request. So here you are, and you've got this highlighted change request finally. So you've seen it when you either are editing your rec at the point of the PO being on the buyer's workbench or the purchase order has been dispatched. That change request will be highlighted once they're in the process of taking care of that. So notice that change request, again, is highlighted and colored in. It's now got color, so that means it's active. When you click that on, the page enables you to monitor the approval status of the change request. And if you click that expand section on the left that we've got boxed in, when you click that icon for information about each requisition change request, it will display information for you, including the individual requisition lines, the changes made to the original requisition, and change reason codes and comments, and any processing errors. Manually creating a change request does not give you the opportunity, though, to keep track from the lifespan. So you want to definitely go to the Manage Rec. You've heard me say this before. So you've heard me almost, I guess, probably since October, I started saying how much I love the Manage Requisition page. I still love it. It's probably still my favorite page for our end users especially. It gives you the opportunity just to follow your transaction all the way from request to payment. And now you can use the change request and see that as well. So I love that piece. So those are the three types of times that you would use your requisition to edit changes. The first one, again, is when you are really when you're holding the rec in your hands, so to speak, and you have not submitted it to purchasing. The second is when you've submitted it to purchasing and they're working on the rec for you to make it a purchase order, but it hasn't gone to the vendor. You can edit the rec and changes can be made. And then the third one, as I said earlier, the change request, then when it's been dispatched, the purchase order has been dispatched, that third step is actually what we used to call a change order. And your purchase order will say change order on it as well when it is dispatched to the vendor, because when we do a change order to a purchase order, they do get redispatched to the vendor so that they have the updated information for you. Okay, so those are the three, and I just want to take a moment here to see if we have some questions. So we'll take questions. I know I went through all three of them kind of fast, but hopefully not too fast.
We have somebody typing.
So while we have somebody typing, let me just say too that this is a great opportunity if you have any questions. As I said, we're at the final day of our fiscal year, so anything that we can do to help you and make things a little bit better, now's an opportunity. But we'll also talk a little bit at the very end of the presentation about how you can let us know of any other things that you would like to see us train with and train on. So I'm being asked, when you say that a purchase order is closed, Does that mean all the invoices are sent against it? So the purchase order is not to be closed until all the invoices are paid. So typically, once you see that all the invoices are paid on your purchase order, you need to notify purchasing that you're ready to close the PO. It's not our typical standard to close a purchase order unless there's just no activity on it for about 3 or 4 months. Then we start getting a little bit concerned that maybe the purchase order is not needed. So we don't close it until your invoices are processed. However, we are at fiscal year end, and I will say that our purchase orders will be closing sometime mid-July. We'll just close all of them. So be cognizant of that too. So as many of those invoices that you have hanging out there, as long as you've got them to accounts payable, I know they're working really hard to get those processed. Any other questions? We have someone typing. So I have an invoice for this fiscal year, and I just received it today. Can I still do a change requesting starting tomorrow? I'm not really sure what you're referring to, so let me see if I can answer. It's almost like we have 2 questions. If you have an invoice for this fiscal year, for 2016, you need to make sure it gets paid. Put that purchase order number on there, and you might want to hand deliver that to accounts payable. The second part is, can I do a change request starting tomorrow? Not on the purchase order that's ending today, no. You'll do a new requisition for anything for fiscal year 17. If the purchase order is less than the invoice, today you can email the buyer and let us know how much that needs to be increased for, so that we can help you and get that taken care of right away. At this point right now, Tacola, if you want to email me, and then I can work with the buyer as well and see if we can increase. Just let us know how much additional has to be added to that purchase order. Let us look at it, and we need to check the procurement on it and make sure that we can increase what you're requesting. And I will say, once we've increased that, you'll still want to get that over to AP today. When you are ready to email that to the buyer, forward it to your approver and have them, so to speak, sign off on that email by responding that they approve the increase. And then they can, and you can copy me on that. And so that way, when the approver signs it, I will have notification. Do we use this process to do a change order instead of the previous procedure we were using? Teresa, yeah, this begins tomorrow. So July 1st, you'll edit your rec to create the change request. What happens if you change a requisition to such a degree that it exceeds a purchasing threshold? For example, if that total goes over 8,000 to 12,000, will it recall the requisition and go out on bid? I guess it, Teresa, depends on what status you're at. So if the purchase order hasn't gone to the vendor and you're over the $10,000 threshold, yeah, it will stop. So we definitely will have to look at it if it's a sole source, or if you're doing a state contract, or if it is something that has to go out for bid. So we'll have to review what the procurement is. So yes, it may stop. You're welcome. Okay, so if you have any additional questions, we're going to give you a link in a few minutes where you can email those to us. But right now, we are at the end of our presentation.
And this takes us to my part, just talking about PeopleSoft resources and where you can find this presentation and the video recording of this webinar. You can go to our PeopleSoft resources page, and the PowerPoint will be placed in our most recent section, and then the video will be placed in the PeopleSoft videos section. We are currently in the process of updating our e-procurement training and resources, and because there are a lot of things that have changed over the last few months, some good things, and we want to make sure that those changes are incorporated into the training material that we have available to you. And so when we're finished updating all those resources and that training material, We'll be sure to provide a job aid for creating a change request in PeopleSoft, something that you can actually print and keep at your desk for those times that you forget maybe the steps you need to take to do so. So when that is complete and available, we'll let you know in our PeopleSoft newsletter, and you know that you guys have been receiving those about every 2 weeks, and they are also available, the archived issues as well as the most current issue on our PeopleSoft website as well. And at the end of this session, I will be sending you an email with our PeopleSoft survey training link so that you can tell us how we're doing. And if there are some things that you feel that are missing from the training opportunities that we're providing and that you would like for us to put into place. So just make sure that if you please take the time to let us know how we're doing and what we can do to help make your job in PeopleSoft a little better and run a little smoother. If you have any specific questions about this course or any other purchasing questions that you may have referring to requisitions, purchase orders, or receipts, please email purchasing at purchasing@sc.edu, and there are several people that are monitoring that email and that email box, and they will be sure to get back to you. Also, if you have any additional people sitting with you in the room listening to this presentation, please email the names of those individuals. You guys are really, really good about that, but we always like to remind you just in case. And also, if you have any questions about training, please email pstrain@mailbox.sc.edu, and we're always more than happy to help out.
Okay, so thank you so much for being with us today. We appreciate it. Again, I just want to reiterate that we're here for you in any way that we can help. We do have several people, as Joanne said, that monitor the email box so that we can try to respond as quickly as possible. And just on another last minute note, for those of you who have worked with Jeff Patterson over the last year, he is officially retiring today. So he has been helping with responding to some of those emails and has done a great job. So I just want to let you know that we are going to leave that with Mac and myself and Leanne and Mike. So there are still several of us helping. So again, thank you for being